Hi, my name is Ken Masterson, and this is a video through a revision of how the site works and looks. And this is going to focus on one of the new set of aggregation pages, which is how to change your microbiome. So you go and you do your usual login, and you now will end up landing on my profile page. You notice that we now have these items sitting up there. We don't have this massive array of lists with lots of different drop-down buckets. Everything has been shifted around. And what I'm going to look at in this video is the change microbiome. Microbiome is set up basically as 4 sections, from real simple for the brain fog to slightly more advanced to consensus to for those who are really into the microbiome or very much into a specific medical condition or specific compound or enzyme which is out of whack, and they want to focus extremely on that. So the levels go up in requirements to understand what's going on. So let's look at the easiest. You come in and you have one of several possible conditions. These are pre-canned already, and they are using bacteria identified from U.S. National Library of Medicine studies. We do have a generic one here, which simply says, hey, look at it and tell me where my bacteria is out without looking at the specific condition. So if you fit in one of these baskets, please make use of it. If you don't, use the general. Let's take a look at one. Let's take a look at irritable bowel. You click here, and it takes you right over to the suggestions. And there, and then down the bottom, you see a listing of commercial probiotics and the ranking, etc. So same output page as before. It's just that getting to it is simpler. You click back, and you notice it says one package of suggestions. Every time you execute one of the things up here, the suggestions goes into a basket so that you can go back and look at what the aggregation, the consensus of all the different ways of doing things. Second way is I'll do a not specific microbiome. And here we have the suggestions from there. We return, and you see it's now up to 2. Oh, person also has CFS-ME with it. And we have that, and now we can go back. And there we have actually 3 suggestions. Now, this is suggestions looking at 3 different ways. Each way picks different bacteria. Each bacteria results in different suggestions. So it is a compromise. Remember, we are dealing with perhaps 600, 800 different bacteria shifting different ways, and studies saying just should be this direction, that should be that direction. In other words, you have lots of information, frequently with some contradictions showing up. So let's take a look at this. So before going there, the suggestion coming from here could be where you stop. No more. That's enough. If that's all you can handle, absolutely fine. Second level up is looking at doing a consensus, and click here and you can see the consensus suggestions. And the suggestions is you usually would start here, and this is what every single way that you looked at the microbiome things say this is what you should be doing. And here we have the impacts here and there. The ideal thing are things which is 3 and 0. We have none of them. We have 2 and 0, 0, which means those are 2 of the 3 times that's the way to go, and nobody voted against it. Here we have 3 in favor of it, but there's a little bit of hesitancy. There's some adverse interaction that could happen. And then you need to look at probably the ratio. This is a 2-to-1 ratio, not good. This is a about 5-to-1, that's better. So you want the highest ratio. So things like here, it's more iffy than definitive. 18 for that's probably one of the best. So vitamin B1 would be one of your first choices, etc. So that is there, and then goes through and looks at things. And the main thing to look at is likely highest adverse risk. And we click on the titles and we see these are things which are likely to continue your microbiome issues, or in fact perhaps make them worse. So I won't dwell on this page. I have dealt with it separately in other videos, and perhaps I'll add in a explicit video link to the top of the page once I get a opportunity to go and do it. We have a post here which may have a video. If it doesn't, I will add a video, and I will also include, actually let's just check. Okay, nope, it explains it in more detail, but no video, so I will go and get a video ad. So we have now done the easiest. Just pick one item, run with it, you're done. Second level up, you do multiple things, and you look at the consensus and you run with it. We also have two special things which are oddball. They use a totally different mechanism than what suggestions are doing. What they're doing is they're making use of the DNA in your gut bacteria and the DNA of probiotics or other things, and come up with suggestions. So it ends up, when you click here, it'll come up with suggestions listing which one, and this page does have a video ready to roll with, so you're good. And the relative weight, yes. So its main purpose is to make it the suggested supplements is a little bit trickier, and you get to set what percentile you're at. For example, default is 10%. That means you have less amount being produced than 90% of the average. You're in the bottom 10%. And just two items listed there, and you could increase to something like 30, do an update, and you get a longer list of items. The list of items is relatively restricted to things which are directly DNA related. It is not things such as supplements or foods. These are things which may be available as a supplement, but they are not the usual food intake items. These are actually at the chemical level, which is where the suggestions are coming from. Okay, so we have covered that part. Next, we wander over to the next level of where we are going to say, okay, I want to get more opinions. I want to get second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, 11th, 12th opinion, and see where it comes. Now, I could clear the basket here, get rid of those, or I could just leave it there. It's up to you. And what we do is we just click each one, and then we go back, and each time you see the number does go up there. I'm just going to do a couple. Remember, pay attention to the bacteria selected. We go back, box whisker. We have many more bacteria in our mix. We go back, cut off multi-off range. Sorry, wrong button. Cut off multi-off range. Get suggestions. And we can now set a percentage, high or low. Let's suppose we want to really do a broad shotgun blast. We get here. We get suggestions. We go back. You see, this is up to 8, because in all we have done 8 different ways of approaching the problems you're having. Who knows the right one? I don't. I don't think anybody does. If they claim to do, you're probably being gaslighted. Okay, and we can now go and look at the view consensus suggestions. And if you wait till it's finished there, and now we take count, we see 3 items came up 7 times as things to take, and cranberry flour, folic acid, melatonin supplements. Then we end up with red wine propanols, often referred to as resveratrol, but they're not precisely the same. They're very close to each other, and then we see there, and then we going down the list, and we have 100 items there. Go down to my usual avoid risk, and we see here we have things such as brown rice, cacao, folic acid, whole milk, etc. are all on the avoid list. And some things are absolutely clear, like palm kernel meal is a 5 says avoided. Not one piece of evidence says it could be beneficial based on the data we have, and that's it. So that takes us through, and we'll go back, and now those are the easy parts. Now at this point in time, many of you may want to stop. I'm now going over into the advanced sections, one which likely will require some background or heavy duty reading, or you are a medical professional and maybe, just maybe, know enough. We have a whole stack of things here, and what we are doing is we are hand picking bacteria. We have no bacteria we have picked. Instead of using algorithms to say, okay, these are the ones you should do, I'm going to actually go in and see, I want this bacteria, I want that bacteria, I want that bacteria. Now, I don't care about just one, based on whatever knowledge, background, belief system you have. So I'm giving you the power to do exactly what you're wanting. Whether it's correct, who am I to judge? First, we'll pick the common bacteria you lack. Okay, and according to here, at 99th percentile, nothing, everything there. If I drop it down to 80th percentile, we see there are 2 bacteria which are 85% of people have, and not almost 90% of people have those 2 bacteria. So I'm going to check both of those, because the fact that they are missing is a little bit of a concern. So I want to try to do something to perhaps encourage them. These would come in with a count of 0, which means that we are going to try to increase that. So we're going to simply click Add to Handpick Basket, and we see we have 2 bacteria listed here. And if we go down here, voila, you have your value in percentile, 0 and 0, which is absolutely correct. You have none. You're the 0th percentile, and your count is 0. So let's go back. Next one is from generic health analysis, and that's the results are shown on the first page. The ability to select is on this page, and these are the ones where you have bacteria which are potentially problematic. And for example, I will go down here and I will go and click things which are too high or way too high. I could select all of them. That one I'm going to let slide with Ketsia. So all of those items are bacteria which I want to include, and because these are high levels, in fact, they will attempt to be reduced. And then we have Jason's suggestions down here, and we have things which are not ideal, and his range is 1 to 3%. You are 0.2%, so you can say, okay, I want to increase that. This one is not ideal. You are at the 23 percentile, so I'll mark there. Another one, you're ideal. This one, you are high, and etc. So now that you finish checking all the bacteria you're interested in, check here, and now you see we are up to 11 bacteria. And there are the bacteria, those are the values, and those are your percentile. So we can see that a lot of things we are doing it. Some items like this one, we have to be at the 50th percentile. that actually will be ignored when we do it. We will attempt to drive everything to the 50th percentile. So this one, although this one was included because Jason's criteria was whatever it was. And his criteria actually says that 50% of people don't meet that criteria. Is his criteria correct or reasonable? I'm suspicious it's not as reasonable as it was there. But his data is coming from the Ubiome sample. And different processors, lab processing have different results. So for his original population group may be correct. It may no longer apply here. Okay, changing there. Now, so we have some more things. At this point in time, I should give an analogy. Now, your person, you are like an automobile. And you are what? 30, 40, 50, 60-year-old automobile. You're busy driving down the street happily, and suddenly you're hearing strange sounds coming from the engine, or suddenly the car stops. You get towed into the local service station. Young 18-year-old kid is the mechanic of the day, and he goes in and he says, oh, the problem is you're using the wrong type of gas, or the ethanol in the gas is causing the sound. Let me empty all your gas tank and put in fresh gas, and that should be good. And he does that, starts the car, it sounds okay, you drive off, after paying him, of course, and 10 miles down the road, the problem starts again. I've been in that situation with cars, old cars, oh yes. So you come back and you hit a different gas station, and the person says, oh, I know what the problem is. The problem is you have a clogged fuel line. Somebody else comes in and says, no, the problem is your fuel pump is bad. Another person comes in and says, oh, your carburetor is bad. You need to replace your air filter. Here, have some ready to sell it to you. Somebody else comes in and says, no, the problem is you have a leaking radiator and the engine is overheating. That one says, okay, really the problem is your valves need to be replaced and your cylinders grind. So you go into all sorts of different scenarios for this auto, for the human body. It is the same nightmare. What is it? You could assume, okay, it's just one thing and do it, and that may improve it temporarily, but they may actually, for a 50-year-old automobile, there may be a lot of separate issues you have to deal with. So this allows you to focus on individual issues one at a time. Generic health is a very easy one to do. Now we can go over to one of these details such as pick from bacteria, producing end products. And here we have all sorts of end products. For example, if you look at H2 hydrogen breath, you perhaps are dealing with SIBO. And you want to take a look here, and you want to reduce hydrogen producing bacteria. Here's your percentile. If you want to reduce it, you want to go and check the ones which are high. Here's another one. And you don't want to touch things which are low, because chances are they're not making a significant contribution. You could if you want to. Doria, you perhaps could. Okay, and you click here and you add it back in. And we see the number of bacteria has gone up again. If you double add the same bacteria, it only records as one. So don't worry about having to figure out if you are or not added one already. So that's one way. End products, for example, which product? And there's a list there of about 90 items. You can go over to PubMed and it says, okay, let's go over, and one of the issues I'm dealing with is hay fever. And voila, we have a list of bacteria dealing with hay fever. In general, we have to do two things. You have to see if it's low or high. If it's low, it means people with hay fever have lower amounts. Oops, we have low amounts of those two. So let's go and bump those up. Higher amounts, well, I don't have a high amount there, so that's not concerned. Higher, 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 barely. Lower, No. Lower, no, that's fine. Higher, this is one of the ones which are higher. Lower, now I have high value and lower has a problem, so I can ignore that. Here's number one where I have high value and number one higher here. So you can go through and these are lower, so there's no problem. So you can go through and add those things in for hay fever. So now we add those in. And we're back and we have to bacteria selected. So that allows you to build a composite from it. Now we go down to the next one, which is from different data source totally. And this one is one of these. I'm sorry it has to be complicated, but the nature of data is just that. It's you can go in and you can go and see if, keyword, if you are listed there. And suppose you say, okay, autoimmune diseases is there. And now you get a list. Now what we have is the average reported in the condition, 0.005. Your value is 0.066. And the average value found in sample is 0.089. So you are a little bit lower than the average sample, but you're not really down there. So you end up having to go down and do some estimates of it. We have, for those who are statistically oriented, we have the standard deviation based on the average found in sample. So you can do some magical mathematics if you really want. Sometimes you go and say, forget it, it doesn't work. So you basically go down and you are looking for cases where for example, here is a good one. Average found in sample was 0.2. Reporting condition was 0.288. Yours was 0.315, which means that you are definitely in the high end. They are more inclined towards having this particular symptom, etc. And you can go through. This is a lengthy one to go through. I'm sorry, there's no easy way through it. There's no easy way to do mathematics because two factors are important for decision making. Percentage occurs in samples, so something like here that occurs in 50% of samples. Okay, that's very common. Something which occurs in 7% of the samples, probably less likely, but the fact that it is reported in that population is there. And in this case, this one would be another one which I would pick. Why? Because in this case, usually it's 0.01. You're well below 0.01, and the average is much higher. So I'll be inclined. Technically, with that type of standard deviation, it's not going to be a statistically significant pick, but we're not publishing papers, so we can do it. And now we just add that in. So we add in, we have a couple more bacteria there. Now we go over to cake enzymes. Cake enzymes are here, and you need to look at the advanced tab to look at what the enzymes are. So from that, you figure out which enzymes you are low in and go through there, list there, and your percentile is there. And what you have here is the page, and some of the things to pay attention to is you have, this is seeing in 0% or less than 0.1% to be more precise. I do some rounding for simplicity. So what you may want to do is go and include that one into the collection. To do that, again, depends on you knowing which enzyme you have. And on the research page, you can go and find out which enzyme you had, or look up whether or not your oats tests reports the problem there. Similar for compounds, same procedure. And what you want to do is, sorry, it's a long list. It is alphabetically arranged. let's suppose you want to take a look at alcohol, and then those are the things which are connected with alcohol. And I see, okay, okay, I did a quick fix, discover a little recent change had a side effect. So you can go and pick, and you can see things, and you can go and determine now. Remember that things which are 50 percentile. So for example, if you want to reduce this one, you would want to pick a higher percentile. If you want to increase it, you want to pick the lower percentile. Everything is adjusted to the 50 percentile. That which you're seeing in most people. Now, adjusting for a different target percentage technically can be done, but that is a bit of a nightmare, and that basically means having to write separate algorithms for every single scenario, which at the moment I'm not inclined to do. If you know somebody who has lots of money and wants to make a nice big grant so that I can work on this full time, feel free to contact them. I'd be glad to quit the day job and do this full time. Okay, so let's go back to the page. Now we also look at both consuming and producing. So different bacteria will do it again. I'm sorry, but there's such a long list. And there we have things. So you can determine, you can select which compounds are producing it and which ones are consuming it, and you can make adjustments there. Now, at this point in time, I should just very quickly hop over to the advanced feature. And if you're looking at something like bacteria enzymes, here you will get all the enzymes listed, your percentile. We can now use determine which one you want to do, make use of. So you need to write down the names and then hop across and do it. So that's basically the process here. I may hyperlink to the prior page, but at the moment it's not hyperlinked. So we'll just go and leave that for the moment. Okay, so let's get back to our page. So we have there, and the next way of picking it is even more interesting. You pick it visually. Here's your bacteria tree. Down up at the top are different criteria for which items will be highlighted on the tree to make life simpler. And for example, using box whisker, these are high ones, so I can just go and say, okay, I want to reduce those high ones. I want this one, and go through the whole list. Lots of items there. And now we just go and click. So we've now gone through all of these different things to check. Your air filter, your coolant, your battery, your generator, your starter engine, your fuel pump, your water pump, etc. So we've gone through all of it. Remember, you are a 50-year-old or car, more or less, and if you haven't been doing regular maintenance for 50 years, I mean regular proper maintenance, which nobody wants to take the cars in to do because nothing is really wrong, so you probably won't have this problem, but those problems has happened. Now you have a car which you love, your body, and things are going wrong. The problem is there are many things that could be going wrong, and if you have a good mechanic, he'll fix it. However, a lot of times when you take it in, you're going to get people who know a bit citing particular issues. You're not going to do a big, okay, let's take things apart. Let's check your valve, everything else. Run the whole gamut thing. Have the car literally taking 2 mechanics, 2 days to take apart, identify every problem, put back together. Most of the time, your medical insurance or yourself personally cannot afford that type of in-depth analysis. assuming that the people who are doing it actually know what to do with all the information. So that is basically it. And now you go down here and you click here, and it goes and do a modify one. So you just specify what you want to do, and number of items to select. Everything else is automatic. You can do, remember, you always can download suggestions as an Excel file, which can be helpful. And that's it. So you can just go and so suggestions. And now you have your suggestions based on the items you picked. Remember, the bacteria pick determines the suggestions. And if you go back to here, we actually can go in, and the suggestions which you've just done is now in the collection here. And there I'm going to actually do just a little bit of silliness, which simply shows how many suggestions came out. What we just did came up with 405 suggestions. One of the things which we did only came up with 33 suggestions. But you can see we have a pretty large number of suggestions. And these are suggestions. These are items which will increase, which are probably will increase the odds of shifting things in the right direction. It's all probability, it's all odds. None of it is definitive. Okay, now that I've shown you page on what goes through, let's do a recap. Many people, that's as far as you want to go. If you don't have a clear mind or don't have interest as far as you want to go, you may want to also include those two things. They are generally good suggestions besides. So that is your core analysis. Then you can go over and do a bit of what I would call fishing expedition, trying familiar fishing holes and seeing what they come up with, and then seeing what the catch is on all of those. If you really into things like dealing with SIBO, everything, and you have some very specific chemicals or compounds to deal with, or you want to increase or decrease, we have this thing which takes it apart in 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 different ways. It sometimes can be a little bit of a trek to find the right stuff, but it's there, and voila, you can go and get suggestions that way. So that's basically it. In short, easier to use in terms of everything is on one page and all the links, so you don't have to go to different things. Remember, oh no, where was this or where's that? Everything is there on one page to make life easy. And it's somewhat dropped in the basket by degree of complexity, with of course the worst being down here. First couple ones are fine. Once you get down into these, they require a combination of Cisco expertise or understanding a fair amount more about your body, bacteria, enzymes, and compounds. Then most people are likely to have. Some people have that knowledge, and if you have the knowledge, you can exploit it here. Okay, that's it.